Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies, and today we're going to look at the Victory TKO arrow. Now, basically a year ago, I didn't know anything about Victory arrows. It was a brand I didn't know about. I was a gold tip distributor. As a result, I literally never seen one of these arrows before. Then last year I lost my gold tip distributorship, and I went, what shall I shoot? And what shall I buy? And I looked at these arrows, and there was so many good reviews on Victory. I switched to Victory, and it's been a huge success for me. I mean, my scores went up and my sales went through the roof. Like far, far better sales than I ever had with Gold Tip. And with Gold Tip, I think I was number 2 or 3 in the world. So this is the Victory VAP arrow. This is a 166 internal diameter shaft. So this is a thin carbon arrow. Now this is used for target or hunting. So I use it in a target setup with 140 grains at the front end, with a pin system and a knock at the back. So the knocks I'm shooting are biter. Now these arrows cost about $140 a dozen for the shafts, roughly. I found them extremely durable, so I haven't busted an arrow yet. And I've shot my best scores with these arrows. Now these are the sports ones. They come in 3 grades. You can see I'm shooting the sport, which is .005. They come in .003 and .001. There's a price point between each break of about $30. Now I could not pick the difference between the sport, the .003 or the .001 in my scores. So as a result, I'm shooting the sports just because that's what I do. This is the VAP. Now the weight of this arrow is, I'm shooting 350 grains, is 7.8 grains per inch. So for every inch, this shaft weighs 7.8 grains per inch. Now, it occurred to me that the X10 shaft, which is arguably, and that's a question, the best shaft on the market, arguably, is 8.4 grains, so it's heavier than the VAP. Now, the story is the X10 has less wind drift than the VAP. Now, some people will say because it's a fraction thinner in the thinner shaft than the VAP. But there's also a difference in weight. Now, from me shooting in the wind, I found that a heavy shaft, when I was shooting literally in tornado conditions, with an extremely heavy shaft, I was getting no wind drift. Right, and that was at 180 meters. And you're going, yeah, no, you were getting some. Yeah, look, I was getting some, but it was minor, like so minor, it was unbelievable. So that was at the Nationals, which I won in clout. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe. So this is why I shoot 140 grains to make the shaft heavier for windy conditions, and we'll talk about weight. Now, VAP Victory arrows produce this arrow here called the TKO. Now, even though I'm a Victory dealer, there it is there, and it's got this cool finish. Check it out, it's awesome. Even though I'm a Victory dealer, I really didn't know much about this. Now, this shaft is marketed as a hunting shaft. Now, most of my hunters will buy the cheap V-Force arrows because they're affordable. And I was like, what's this arrow? Let's just get everyone in. Now, the major thing when I looked at this is 8.8 grains per inch of shaft. So it's one grain heavier per inch than the arrows I currently shoot. So I'm shooting 29 inches arrow, so it's going to be 29 grains heavier than this arrow, because they're both exactly the same size. Okay? So they're going to be 29 grains heavier. But it's only fractionally heavier than the X10, 0.5 of a grain. Now that compares to the Gold Tip Pierce, this is what I used to shoot, which is 8.3 grains per inch. So I thought, well, let's try these arrows out. So I've made up a set of the TKOs. Now they come with inserts because these are a hunting shaft. So they come in spines of, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get this wrong. Comes in a spine of a 350, definitely comes in a 300, and maybe a 250. but I shoot 350, so I'm like, yeah, I can try these out. Now, the finish, like I said, is completely different. It kind of looks like metal. So I rang up Victory to ask them a bit about these shafts. Now, what Victory said to me is this is a cross weave system on the outer. So the weave, when they weave the carbon, it's at 45 degrees. Now, what that's meant to do is when the arrow oscillates, so when it flexes like that coming out the bow, it's meant to straighten up faster than the VAP. So these arrows are the same spine, so they flex exactly the same amount at a given inch, right? They flex exactly the same. But the TKO is meant to straighten up faster than the VAP. In fact, this is meant to be like state of the art. In fact, you'll see VAP, and hopefully I can put it in somehow, say the owner or the manager of the company standing on one of these arrows between two chairs. So he basically puts this arrow between two chairs and stands on the arrow, and it physically flexes, obviously more than that. That's me flexing as much as I can, and then he puts it over a spine thing and it's perfect. So Gold Tip normally do it with 2 shafts, so he goes, well, I'll do it with 1 of these. So now Victory said to me, this is the shaft you want to shoot at if you want to shoot at bricks and walls and wood. This is the shaft you want to shoot at because this arrow can withstand it. But I wasn't, when I say I wasn't interested in doing that, I absolutely am, and I will do that in later videos. But I was interested in the weight of 8.8 grains to see if I can shoot better with these than these. So I rang Victory and I said, is this something I can do? Can I shoot your hunting arrow, your TKO, for target? Is this something that's doable? Is there some reason why I'm missing that I can't do it? All the internal components are the same, so you can use the same 166 points, the Victory points, which are nice and cheap. They come in 140 grains, 110 grains, or 90 grains. And all the standard 166 points will fit. And they said, absolutely, this shaft will be great for target. Now I said, I've actually been shooting them. I've done a couple of videos with these arrows where I'm shooting them. They shoot exactly the same spot as these. Even though this arrow, the TKO, is 29 grains heavier than this arrow, they shoot exactly the same spot. Now, to pull these arrows out of the target, this arrow I can pull out really easy. This arrow is much, much harder. And I'm going to say force required to pull this arrow out of the target is probably 30 to 40% harder to pull out than this arrow. Like this arrow I can almost do with one hand. This arrow is definitely 2 hands, 2 arrow pullers, and sometimes I need a little bit of help. Same bow, right? Same target. So I said, well, this has got the ice coating. Your VAPs have got this ice coating to make it nice and slippery again going into the target. And he said, yeah, so does this. Now what the tech guy at Victory said, he said these are going in further because the energy from the bow doing this is basically dispensed quicker with this arrow, so it penetrates better, further than the VAP arrow. And that's why Victory has marketed the TKO as a hunting arrow with inserts and not a target arrow. But these arrows both shoot in the same spot. But this is heavier, so therefore less wind drift. So some of my questions on these arrows will be, what's the speed difference? So what we going to do is we're going to shoot these through a chronograph, and the durability. Now I have hammered these arrows, so if you watch my video on the Perform, you'll see me put 12 arrows into the little dot and I crunch these arrows together. So far, and even the VAP, so far I haven't busted one arrow, and that's how I shoot every night. Now I do pins. Now I've shot these I do pins. You can see the pin busted, pin busted. I do blow pins apart. Now the Victory pins are really strong, and I think the superior pin on the market. So I blow away heaps of pins, but the Easterns, the Tornadoes, I find those pins bend. These pins are really, really good. So now price point between these shafts, the VAPs are $140 a dozen. So basically set up, by the time you set the arrows up, you're talking about $200 a dozen. These are all Australian dollars. The TKOs are a bit more expensive at $180. Now they do come with inserts which you're not going to need. If you're a target shooter, if you're a hunter, absolutely you're going to need them. $40 more expensive. Now for me, $40, yeah, it doesn't really worry me. And once again, all these arrows come in 3 grades, the .005, the .003, and the .001. Now your X10s, because that's what I'm competing against, are $550 a dozen. Now if I was to shoot X10s the way I shoot these victory arrows into the target, I would blow a dozen apart in a day. Easy, no question, because I'm just whacking each arrow into each arrow. And because it's an aluminium carbon composite, as soon as I've got that aluminium component in there, as soon as an arrow hits, it's going to ding and bust. And that's why I don't shoot them, because I like grouping arrows together. And someone said if I grouped arrows together, I'd get spanked by my dad. I like grouping arrows because it gives me a sense of satisfaction that I can group arrows. Anyway, they're $550, but I can't shoot them. And like full metal jackets, not even an option for me because it's metal, and as soon as an arrow strikes the metal, it's going to bust. So not even an option. Now gold tip is what I used to shoot, the gold tip Pierce. I used to shoot the Pierce Platinum. These are the price of the Pierce, which are $170 a dozen. I just found I'm shooting better with these. The components, the price point is pretty similar between the gold tip and the Victory. The component prices is not. The components for gold tip, and sorry, this is in Australia, new distributor. I think now the price on the points in Australia is about $50. The Victories are around $30 a dozen. Your bits for your pins are more expensive for the Pierce than the VAPs. So actually the Pierce work out a bit more expensive. I've found these arrows, the Victory, extremely tough and durable. Not to say that the gold tip wasn't. I just find them getting slightly better results. The Victory point also does not come in 140 grain, so you've got to take the point, which is $50, add a 20 grain insert into it, which I think now is about $20, so therefore the points are coming in at $70, so it's about $30 more expensive. So now I'm going to say I did notice a difference between the different grades of the gold tip. So the difference between the .005 and the .001, I did notice the difference of those in scores, where the Victory I did not. Now the other component of the Victory, they're spine aligned, which is fairly standard with Victory, and what that means is when they spine it that way and spine it in all the different directions, they put a little line on the shaft to say this is the way the shaft should be set up. Whether there's a difference on that or not, I'm going to leave that up to you. I don't see there's a difference, but I do it. I find my consistency with the Victory arrows is better than I've had before, and my scores are an all-time high. Whether that means I'm practicing more than I practiced before is another question. But I'm definitely shooting really well with these shafts. Now, what Victory said to me about the TKO with this weave process, they found the tolerances of their spines, which is how much it flexes over 29 inches or whatever it is more consistent with the TKO than the VAP. So they expect to shoot better with the TKO than the VAP. And they said to me that in the future you'll probably find the TKO will be a target shaft as well offered by Victory. Whether that happens this year or next is another question. So what we want to do now is we want to put these shafts over the chronograph, because we know at 20 meters they hit exactly the same point. And let's see what the difference is on speed. Okay, so we're out here to spine test. When I say spine test, check the speed difference between the TKO and the VAP Victory arrows. So my bow is set on about 56 pounds at 28.5 inch draw length. I'm shooting the PSC Perform X, which I'm loving. Fantastic bow. I'm shooting really well with it, so I'm really looking forward to shooting some scores. So let's see what sort of speed we shoot. This is with the VAP, 350, 140 grain points. I shot 260 feet per second. We'll shoot another one and check the speed of that. and 261. Now, all this stuff about, you know, choosing arrows, if you're a 3D shooter, you probably want a lighter arrow, and the TKO is not an option for you. So it's either the VAP, or look at one of the extreme 3DH, or the extreme arrows from Victory, because you're wanting more weight, or you'd be looking at a lighter point. So the TKO, if you're a 3D shooter, would not even be a thing I'd consider. But me, for target shooting or for hunting, this is absolutely an arrow I'm looking at. So this is the TKO. Now 255 feet per second. So I've only lost 5 feet per second for an extra almost 30 grains of weight. And that's why at 20 meters, my sight settings are exactly the same. Kind of when I work in my shop and I cut arrows for people, they want them to be exactly the same. Like, and I'm talking paper thickness. And it's really hard to saw exactly the same. I mean, you try your best, but in the end of the day, you're not even talking a grains difference. And here I am with 30 grains different, and the arrow shoots at exactly the same point. And that's a 254. So basically, with the TKO to the VAP, you're going to lose about 5 feet per second in speed, but you're picking up all that extra energy from the weight of the arrow. And if the stuff is to be believed, that the arrow is coming out quicker and reacting quicker on the TKO, then you're picking up all that extra energy. So the next part that I need to test is my scores at long distance with the TKO versus the VAP arrows. So now, just for people who watch my videos, when I first shot my Perform, I got a creak in the top cam. I couldn't work out what it was. I did contact PSE and they didn't get back to me, but today I went, do you know what? I've been doing archery a long time. I think it's the module, because I've had this before, and basically for some reason between the module I was getting a noise. It's, of all the Performs I've solved, that's the only Perform it does it on. And basically I put a bit of wax in between the module and the cam. The noise went away completely. So it obviously did not affect any of the way I shot. And I was shooting, it was just creaking at about the 21 inch mark. A little bit of wax between the two bodies, it's gone. Now we did that before with the Stinger back in, I'm going to say around the year 2000, and it wasn't 2000, it might have been 2007, 2008. We put a bit of wax between the module and the problem went away. So that's all it was with the bow, but loving the bow overall. That's the Perform. I've had heaps of people come in and try it now, and everyone loves the bow and they shoot really, really well with it. So if you get a chance, go and have a shot with it. I love it. Now this weekend, hopefully I can get to shoot the TKOs at target, at distance, and shoot some ends with those and the target, and hopefully we'll be able to videotape that and show you the difference. Thank you for watching. Bye.